Welcome, everybody. This is NorbCam. Norb-Cam coming at you with some breaking news here on NorbCam News. Yes, J.J. Watt, as you see on the title, has officially signed with the Arizona Cardinals in a deal worth 2 years, $31 million, $23 million guaranteed from what I am hearing on initial reports. We had talked about this the last show on the roundtable last week about the potential, or was it 2 weeks ago? This was in the news for a while. Where would J.J. Watt go? Would he go to reunite with his brothers in the Steelers? Would he go to the Titans? There's a lot of teams that were kind of in play there, but ultimately he goes to one of our NFC West foes, the Arizona Cardinals. Is this good news? Is this bad news? We're going to get that, break that down with a couple of my roundtable guests who are here to join me in just a minute. So before we really dive into the topic, I just want to quickly ask everybody for a favor, if you wouldn't mind. Please smash the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. I'd appreciate that. Helps my channel greatly, and it also makes sure that you don't miss any videos that pop up like this, that pop up in the middle of the day that was unexpected. So greatly appreciate that. And I also want to say a quick thank you to everybody who's joined the NorbFAM, particularly the MVPs like Nick LeBeau, Anthony D, Jesse, Duckface, Ryker, Rockstar, NINJA-CRK, and All Pros, Maria, Maraj, Jason E, KC Sportsnerd, Aidan, Pham, and BJ. KC Sportsnerd, by the way, is celebrating a birthday coming up on Wednesday, and I have a special surprise for you, my friend. So we're going to get to that in a couple days on your birthday. But for now, let's get to the guys who are going to help me break down this signing, this huge signing here in the NFC West. Joining me right here is DJ Squabo and Coach Bill Marsh, Coach for Life. DJ Squabo, glad you could be on here at this last minute breaking news. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. A little bit underdressed for the occasion, but, you know, a little makeshift background, a little makeshift studio at my girlfriend's apartment came in clutch. So really excited.
Hey, man, but the important thing is you're here. It's not about what you're wearing. It's the fact that you just showed up, and you did show up, and I appreciate that. Coach Marsh, Coach for Life, at this odd hour of the day. Didn't even plan this show. I caught you shopping at Target, and I said, Coach Marsh, we got breaking news. Can you get on the show? I was like, give me till 11:15 or so, and I'll be there. So I'm glad you were able to hop on here, because I know you got a take that everyone's going to want to hear. Coach Marsh, welcome back in this NorbCam News breaking news hour.
Hey, man, I was literally, I was jogging through the Target as soon as I saw that he wanted me to jump on there, and free plugs for Target there. But, man, great to see you and Squabo. And, I mean, this to me is a fascinating story, so there's no way I'm going to sit there and, shop for my peanut butter and jelly when I can get home and get on NorbCam and talk football. So I sprinted home, got the dog put away, and jumped in on a quick sweatshirt, and off we go, man. So, yeah, crazy stuff. But this to me is fun, man. Like you said, just doesn't matter how we show up. It's more the topic that anybody cares about, I think. So
yeah,
I can remember, Squabo, what you're wearing or what my background is. I can remember what we talk about the next 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and how does it affect our Hawks?
That's the thing. This story doesn't necessarily matter as much, but the fact that it came to the NFC West has very far-reaching consequences, not only for the Cardinals, but the entire NFC West. So just a reminder to everybody else, for you watching, you guys can, we're actually going to take some of your comments and reactions to this as well here on Discord. The link is up at the top of the chat as well as in the description, and you can phone in on the screen. You got the number there, 515-606-5121, and then enter the code 696-153, and you'll be entered into the phone line queue if you want to call in on the traditional phone line. All right, so my first reaction to this was I was hoping he would go anywhere but to the NFC West, because we have enough issues to deal with. With this whole hot topic of conversation is Russell Wilson complaining that he needs better protection. Well, he's just got one more issue to deal with on that Arizona front defensive line. Chandler Jones was one, and we didn't have to deal with him the entire past season because Chandler Jones got knocked out of the season with a knee injury. I'm sure he'll be back at some point this season to be paired up with J.J. Watt. So J.J. Watt, and I just want to read some tweets. I was kind of surprised because I thought this was something Cardinals fans would be more excited about but here's just a few reactions of some of the Cardinals fans. Let's be real. J.J. Watt made a big mistake. He should have come to my Steelers. I guess the Steelers fan, but we'll still win the Super Bowl without him. We have the better Watt brother with our number one defense and top 5 QB. Another Cardinals fan, as an honest Cardinals fan, I think I speak for all Cardinals fans. I don't know if he does speak for all Cardinals fans, but he say that he does. When I say we don't want J.J. Watt, he's washed. He is weak. sack, and he never gets sacks. This signing is the reason I'm leaving and going to root for the Buccaneers where they know how to run a franchise. So I was surprised. It seemed to be more negative on the Cardinals side, at least on the initial Twitter that I saw from Ian Rappaport's account. But let me just jump first, Squabble. We'll start with you, man. What was your initial reaction to this, and what do you think? What does this mean for the NFC West and for the Seahawks in particular?
Yeah, for Seattle, it means we better fix that offensive line right now if we want to keep Russell Wilson and if we want to keep him happy at all. Our offensive line gave up way too many sacks. They have his entire career, and now we added another elite pass rusher at times. He hasn't had a 10 sack year in a couple of years. He had 16 2 years ago. Since then, he's only had 5 and 4 each season. This past season, he did play all 16 games, but only 5 sacks is only one more than Alton Robinson had last year for Seattle. And he had the same amount as Carlos Dunlap had last year for Seattle in only 8 games for Seattle. So not the most productive year in the sack department, but he was playing on a really bad team, and they were always trailing in games. So it wasn't like he got to pin his ears back and go after a desperate quarterback. So it'll be definitely more ideal situations in Arizona. It's going to be very good on both sides of the defensive line. It'll help Isaiah Simmons, who had a sneaky good year last year, but didn't have quite the production that we all believe he's able to have. I think it's going to really help bolster up their defensive line. It ate up all of their cap space, but they're going to make other moves, and they're going to make some numbers work. So I think J.J. Watt, to them, makes them a lot better. It terrifies me, but it's not like they're getting the 16 sack, the 20 and a half sack J.J. Watt anymore. He had 5 and 4 the last 2 seasons.
All right, so Coach Marsh, I know that you are a big fan of J.J. Watt. Tell me why, and what does this mean? You know, should Cardinals fans be excited? Should Seahawks and the rest of the NFC West be terrified? What does this mean moving forward as we look ahead to 2021 with J.J. Watt on the other side of the offensive lines for the NFC West and particularly the Seahawks?
Well, I mean, the reason why I absolutely wanted to be on this is because, like you said, I am such a huge fan of J.J. Watt. I mean, it is, without question, he's one of my 5 favorite guys in the league because of who he is, what he does, how he plays, how he responds to everything else. And I'm just going to hit one topic, and then we'll go back and forth. Because I have like 5 different things I want to hit on. The first one being the sacks piece, right? The last 3 of the previous 4 years before last year, he was at 3, 5, and 8 games total. So that's why his sack totals are so incredibly low. And combine that with he's, potential Hall of Famer, I'd say he's probably going to get there, that commands double teams. So that's another reason why, Cortez Kennedy didn't get a ton of sacks either back in the prehistoric days because he was always getting double teamed. Best guy gets double teamed, it opens up for other guys. So he's a menace, man. But there's so many things I want to get into. So I'll just keep my opening remarks at that I think as a fan, a remarkable signing for Arizona. As a Seahawks fan, incredibly, incredibly nervous with what I think he can bring to that team on so many levels.
Now, I know one of the biggest question marks regarding J.J. Watt is obviously his age, his durability. Do you guys feel like, from the Cardinals' standpoint, a 2-year deal, $23 million guaranteed, $31 million potentially, I guess, if he can last out the entire contract. So basically, that averages at about $15 million a year if he can play out the full 2 years. Did they overpay? Did they pay the right price? What do you think? Do you think that it landed at pretty much what his value is worth? Squabble, what do you think?
Well, that's exactly what reports were that he was getting from other places. And Arizona, as you guys know, wasn't one of the teams that was getting talked about. There were 5 teams that were, in the main rotation. Buffalo, Cleveland, Green Bay, Pittsburgh was one of them, and Tennessee. So those were the main 5 that people were talking about. He could potentially go to with different ties to different places. $15 million was the number getting thrown around. If you want to be able to compete with that, and he wants to make money, Arizona was going to have to throw up that kind of money, and to not guarantee it is smart. It's a really good plan, considering what Coach Marsh said. He does have an injury history, so if he's able to stay on the field, if he's able to be there for you, he's absolutely worth it. If he's able to produce the way that he has been as of late, so they had to do it in order to compete, and they did what they had to get the player. It's a championship move in a win now league, so I agree with the move for Arizona's standpoint.
Are you guys surprised, Coach Marsh? Are you surprised they went to Arizona? Because it seemed like, I don't think that was one of the teams that were in the top even consideration of teams that were sort of the likely destinations for the Cardinals. I at least certainly didn't think it was at least in the top 1, 2, or 3. I parallel that to this whole thing with Russell Wilson saying, his agent saying, well, we haven't demanded a trade yet, but if we were going to go somewhere, we kind of like Chicago, Dallas, New Orleans, and what was the other place? Where's the fourth place he wanted to go?
Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Right.
I always forget New Orleans.
So I don't recall off the top of my head what places were the likely landing places, but he ends up at the Cardinals. Were you surprised that he went there based on the choices of places that he could have gone?
Put it this way: when I called a buddy of mine when I came home, and it's exactly what I was talking about, I said, "I'm surprised that that's where he's landed, but I'm not surprised at all that that's where he's landed." Like literally, that was the kind of the befuddled words that came out of my mouth. Because if you really start to look at it, it makes so much sense on so many levels that I think we'll talk about here. Because I think we kind of look at, well, the championship, Green Bay, Packers, that, and then go play with the brother and go do these other things and all the rationalized reasons that we gave out there. But if you look at a guy that maybe he wants to play in warm weather, maybe some things I'll bring up here in a minute, or some other reasons that if you really look at it, I think as time goes on, you're going to go, man, this actually makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense as I continue to think about it. Except for us as Seahawks fans, like I can't stand it. But for many reasons that I will continue to just kind of pace myself on, because I'm ready to just go full on amped with a couple of my thoughts here. I think it's surprising, but not surprising as we start to look at it down the road. I think it's going to make complete sense.
All right. Well, I want to get specifically into some of those points that the breaking it down, which is what you do. You break down film, you break down the nitty gritty. So, Squabble, let's make this Seahawks centric now. What specifically does this mean with now J.J. Watt on the other side? What does the Seahawks have to contend with? What does he bring that the Seahawks, when you are game planning, we're playing the Arizona Cardinals this week. J.J. Watt's over here. Now we're going to have to what? Squabble, get inside the head of the offensive coordinator or the offensive line coach and what that means for the Seahawks with J.J. Watt on the other side.
Well, this morning when I woke up, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad Seattle needed a new right tackle was at about a 2 or a 3. Now it's at about a 7 or an 8. That's the difference that J.J. Watt brings to this team. Before, we were just focused on center, left guard, maybe a right tackle if we can find the time, or if we have, if it's convenient, if we find a good deal on day 2 or day 3 of free agency, something like that. No, now we need a new right tackle, and it's specifically for this reason. Our tight ends are probably going to have a similar year of production as they had last year because they're going to have to be chipping every single play within the division. That's going to be the deal for our offensive line. We're going to need a lot of max protections. We're going to need a lot of tight ends blocking. We're going to need to help out our offensive line a lot against a very intense defensive line in Arizona now. So every single team in our division has an elite defensive line. That's scary for Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And and it's just so ironic that has been the entire focal point of the offseason, the short offseason Seattle's had so far. It's been nothing but, as far as Seattle's concerned, Russell Wilson, offensive line, right? That's been the entire focus, that the almost the future of him staying in Seattle all depends on what we do in terms of getting him more protection. And now we got more elements to deal with. Coach Marsh, I know you're itching to get into the nitty-gritty of J.J. Watt and what he brings as a player. So this is your chance to speak on this 1.21 gigawatts. What is that all about, man?
1.21 gigawatts takes us back to the old 80s days, but man, gigawatt is going on here. Obviously our coach's corner breakdown is more hardcore X's and O's, and I'm going to come more philosophical from just me as a head coach, former head coach, looking at things. Squabble nailed it first from a standpoint of, if we're trying to keep Russ, and Russ's big issue has been with the offensive line, and now someone in our division who he's going to have to face twice just added to their defensive line. More energy, more aggressiveness, a guy that played 16 games last year, who's going to be on the end, and this is a little bit more hardcore stuff. Our offense we're about to run, the hybrid West Coast offense, is all about play action pass and bootlegs, and you're bringing in one of the best ends. Now, what I think is going to happen, though, is I think they're going to move him inside to like defensive tackle. The way they play their defensive front, and we can do a special breakdown on that. I could honestly see them bringing him inside which is going to help him a little bit because he won't have to run as much, won't have to use his body. Yes, he'll command more double teams, but they have some edge rush guys that they can do stuff with. It's more linebackers that come down and play it. So that's where I'm obviously concerned. But I think one of the key things that people are already talking about, obviously, is the Hopkins factor. In this kind of new world order of sports, the NBA kind of led the charge with let's get three buddies together and create the dream team of so to speak. Now the NFL is starting to do that a little bit. They're finding ways to make it happen. And, and I follow Twitter and follow those dudes. And when Hopkins tweeted out a little while back, hey, let's finish what we started, just I think maybe as a joking thing, maybe it's a little bit more legit. And Watt is such a humanistic guy that, yes, he went to where the money was. Don't let that be a side factor here. But you had a Hopkins there. You got a young, fresh head coach, energizing quarterback, warm city, a team that's on the rise. You get to go and play, the NFC West teams, which right now there's not a massive dominating factor in there. Like, we want to be great, and Rams want to be there, and we're all up and comers. Man, I think it's great. But for us now, Russ has to face Donald. He's got to face Watt. It just created more leverage for Russ. I can tell you that much. Either get offensive linemen, or I'm getting out of here where I don't have to face two of arguably the best defensive linemen in the league 4 times next year.
And let's not forget about Nick Bosa of the 49ers. He'll be back next year. We were spared him last year because of the unfortunate injury he suffered early in the season. But we got him, and then we got who are we missing? There's others I'm sure that we're overlooking, but that's just to name. Chandler Jones is the other side of the Cardinals side. So for sure. And
I'd be curious on your guys' take on Kingsbury, because I tell you, when he came into the league, I jumped on the bandwagon with everybody else. That hey, here's the hipster college dude that's coming into the NFL. Give him a year or two, and he's out of there. Look what he's doing, man. Like, he's doing some really good things, and he's matured. And I've seen him do some interviews. Like, man, this is definitely not the same cat that was out there a few years ago. And yes, he's still a young guy, but he's this generational type of coach. And there's not a lot of coaches that kind of have that Pete Carroll of old. And I think we all agree that Pete Carroll maybe, is he passing his time, passing his prime a little bit? Probably at that stage of life. Kingsbury is that new up-and-coming guy that, man, if I was to choose any team and a coach, I'm going to play for that guy in Arizona, sit by the pool, hang out with my old buddy from Houston. I mean, it's just, you start laying it out, Norb and Squabs, so many things. But I want to ask you guys, like, where do you think Kingsbury played in this? Because head coach has to play a factor.
Oh, Squabba, why don't you take it?
Yeah.
Before I do, I just want to acknowledge that there's some fans here who I don't normally, I think, jump in here. We got a Titans fan, Steven Crosio, says that NorbCam, good luck putting up with J.J. Watt twice a year. Take it from a Titans fan. You're going to need it.
Yeah, they're going to know. Those guys are going to know.
Yeah. They didn't pay him $50 million a year for nothing.
And Squabs, I want to also know how many more teams is the agent going to come out with for Russ? Say, Russ still isn't demanding a trade. But he's got 4 more teams that if he was to consider going to now.
Yeah, no, 3 to 4 more at least. I would not be surprised to see that list though.
Yeah, go ahead, Squabs.
Yeah, so you got me saying Kingsbury, Cliff Kingsbury.
I might have said Kingsbury.
It's a tongue twister.
I used to call him Klingonsbury, so that's probably why. So we're going to go with Kingsbury, yeah.
Yeah, no, the Kingsbury effect, first of all, he has shown a lot of good signs, but in terms of his ability to hire personnel and to find personnel and to find talent, that's where he is elite. He is really good at finding talent. He knew he was going to take Kyler Murray, even though he had Josh Rosen on his roster already. He's going to make those moves. He doesn't care. He knows his personnel, but that's kind of typical of a coach coming straight out of college. Those college coaches in the first couple of years, they studied those guys. They scouted those guys. They know those guys. And with Kyler Murray, like he played for him. So he knows exactly how these guys tick and how to make them work. So Kingsbury is really good at personnel. We're going to see schematically if he's able to hold up, because towards the end of the year last year, they fell off and they were getting out-coached schematically. And so that's the question mark with Cliff Kingsbury moving forward. But in terms of the move that Arizona made towards Seattle, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because when I play flag football, last week we played 2 games a night. In the first game, there was this big dude on the other team, bigger than me even. And I remember there was a play I was guarding him, and he came at me a little bit, so I cracked him. And I hit him a little bit harder than I needed to necessarily. I didn't realize it at the time, but after that, we started getting physical and banging after that. The ref kept pulling us apart and all that stuff. After the game, he comes up to me and tells me, he's like, yeah, dude, as soon as you hit me that first time, you were in my head. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I got a little bit upset. So the next game, I come out and I knew I was in his head. So the next opponent I played, I started getting physical right off the bat. I started getting in their head. I started talking to him too. He didn't end up scoring at all that game, and he got completely shut out. Arizona knows what's in Seattle's head. Seattle just won the division. We have a target on our back. Russell Wilson, our leader, just said he's tired of getting hit. So what do? They're in our head, so they go make that thing stronger. They make that weakness, and they exploit it. They're trying to get what we have, so they are adding pass rushers because they know that will separate Russell Wilson and Seattle. This is an intentional attack, in my opinion, by Arizona, and I think it's brilliant from their standpoint, kind of reminiscent of the Tom Brady to Tampa vibes. Not as many people were talking about it, but when it happens, it looks really good and everything kind of makes sense.
It's a little different from the Tampa Bay connection because obviously Tom Brady bringing back an old teammate is a guy he actually threw to and had that miraculous connection with. But you still have that feeling of two guys from a very successful multi-championship team coming back together. Now, obviously Houston didn't have that, but you do have two of some of the greatest players in their team's history uniting together on one team. I'm sure that chemistry is going to be very contagious. Even though they're on opposite sides of the ball, they're obviously not working together because one's on offense, the other's on defense, but it's certainly going to, I'm sure, galvanize and it's going to excite the fan base. That's for sure. J.J. Watt posters and jerseys or sales are going to go through the roof for the next couple of years, I'm sure. But, I was thinking back, my memories. We don't play the Texans very often, so we don't have a whole lot of Texans experiences to fall back on. But do you guys remember the game? I think it was our Super Bowl year where we had to come from quite a big deficit. I think that was the game. Isn't that the game where J.J. Watt busted his nose or whatever, and his face was just bleeding down inside his mask? He was just covered in blood and with the tape on his nose. Wasn't that the game where we had to come back where Richard Sherman had his touchdown and had to, lost his shoe and was able to come back from behind? I believe that was the game, wasn't it? But for me, I'll always remember J.J. Watt just because it was such a memorable year, memorable game, memorable comeback, and that face of J.J. Watt's with the blood all over the place. I don't know if you'll remember and think back to those times because that was a long time ago, relatively speaking, but, in some ways, that's going to be a image that maybe for him, as he rekindles and gets fired up to take on Russell Wilson, might be pulling that image out and going, yeah, I remember what these guys did to me. Just payback time, twice a year. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's huge. It's scary, man. It is scary to think how many amazing defensive lines that we have to face in the NFC West right now. There is no team that have lines that are slouches. You got Bosa in the 49ers, you got Aaron Donald on the Rams, and then you've got now J.J. Watt on the Arizona Cardinals. There is no let up, and this is 3 teams. We got to play twice a year. That's 6 games out of our schedule, man. That's almost half the season we have to deal with these guys, and maybe in the postseason, like we had to play the Rams twice. I know, it's a scary deal, man. So it's really going to be on the Seahawks coordinator to really figure out some ways to not let Russ get in trouble, and on Russ to get rid of that freaking ball on time. It's really going to be important for him to do that. I do want to get to some call reactions here. I know we got a few guys standing on the line. Do you guys have anything else you want to add on that?
I got one major thing to bring in after we get like a first or second caller here. If you want to jump to a call, but I definitely got a bigger piece that nobody's talked about yet. Okay, all right. We'll get to it. I also wanted to recognize in the Super Chat, Elon God wants to know who's better, J.J. Watt or Nick Bosa. So that would be a good question. Like if you could just wipe the slate clean, I guess, for a 2-year period, which one is going to be better than the other? Obviously, Nick Bosa's got his career ahead and J.J. Watt's on the tail end of his career. But for 2 years, which guy gives you immediate impact? Something to discuss. So let's go to a couple calls on the Discord. Let's go to Rain. Rain from the East Coast. Rain, let's see. Are you there, Rain?
Yep. Can you hear me, Norb?
Oh, yeah, loud and clear. Rain is on here, a frequent guest of Coach Marsh's show. Rain, it's good to have you on here. What's your reaction? You got a question, comment? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with you. The first thing I saw was Adam Schefter say J.J. Watt source. So then I clicked on it and I saw him working out in a Arizona Cardinals jacket. And I said, what? So I just kept on diving through. I was like, JJ Watt. I was like, okay. And it's real. And I was like, oh gosh. So basically, you know, my reaction is, you know, it could go either way. You know, he could have like a 5-sack season, you know, but the main thing that the Seahawks need to worry about is getting that O-line together. And we mean, well, us 12s mean now, because you're JJ Watt and Buda Baker and all those defensive players that they have are just going to go crazy and just like, you know, JJ Watt is a hype man. He'll hype people up. So it's definitely going to be tough for us if we don't get our O-line together and we don't get our act straight. And if it does bad, I mean, Russ could be leaving sooner than we think.
That is definitely a cautionary tale right there for really the entire NFC West, right? It's not just us. The Rams are going to have to deal with them now, and so are the 49ers. So it's on everybody there. So let's continue on. We have a lot. I want to try to get as many comments as possible, and then maybe we'll kind of react as a whole if some certain points are brought up. So let's go to Nick LeBeau, one of the regulars and an admin on the Discord. Nick LeBeau, you're up.
Man, what's up, guys? Hope you're all having a good almost afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Aren't you supposed to be in school right now, buddy?
Actually, caught me at the perfect time. I just got on my lunch break, so
okay, all right.
Perfect time.
No, we know, Nick,
we know you're going to get a 5.0 in your GPA anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
he told his class to just hey, hold on for a minute, class. I'll be back. And the teacher's like, okay, Nick, everybody pause. Nick's got to go do something more important.
Yeah, he says, sorry, you can't leave class. That's unexcused absence. Yeah, but I got to talk on NorbCam show. Oh, in that case, you're excused. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So,
I wish.
All right, go, Nick.
No, but man, I mean, this is just reassurance that we really got to bolster that offensive line, especially the left guard and center position, if what Coach Marsh says is true and they do move him to defensive tackle, which I kind of think is a great possibility. We definitely got to make a huge push for Corey Linsley because, I mean, that's really the only way I see us competing. You know, if we just stick to what we have been doing and kind of throwing cheap money at the offensive line, getting guys like Ethan Posick in there, Mike Iupati, who's way out of his prime, then it's not going to come together. And yeah, like Rain said, Russ is going to be leaving sooner. And it's not just JJ Watt. Obviously, they got Chandler Jones on that defense, Buda Baker in the secondary, Byron Murphy. They got other studs, Hassan Reddick, who I believe is a free agent this season. He had a phenomenal year stepping in for Jones. And their offense is stacked too. Seattle really has to make a splash. And I agree, Squabo, if we got to upgrade that right guard position, and even if we can't upgrade the position, like the starting position, we got to get depth because we cannot afford to go into a game with some practice squad tackle starting again. And that's really what I think we need to do.
All right, Nick. Obviously, a lot of fans, speaking for everybody, concerned about what the Seahawks got to do. It's like DEFCON. Yeah. Is it DEFCON 1 when it's like full-on nuclear attack, and DEFCON 5 when it's peace?
DEFCON 1.
Yeah, DEFCON 1. We're not quite DEFCON 1, but it's like DEFCON 1.5 or something like that. So as far as the offensive line is concerned.
I do not see Watt playing all 16 games, both of his years on contract.
That's the big question. As with any high price free agent, how durable will they actually be and available? Because that price per game goes way up if they're not available for half the season. So appreciate it, Nick. I'm going to get a couple more, and then we're going to have Coach Marsh make his point here. So thanks for being on here as always and what you do for the channel. Greatly appreciated. Let's go to NINJA-CRK. Ninja, who just rejoined the NORBFAM today. Welcome back, NINJA-CRK. You there? Is he there? Hello, NINJA-CRK. Oh. Well, you're like super duper quiet. Hello?
Is it working?
we try to work on your audio because you're like this quiet. You're as quiet as a mouse. So work on that, and we'll try to get you on there. Let me get. Let's go to. Hey, Seahawks Martin. Haven't talked to you in a while. Seahawks Martin, you there, or are you just watching?
Yeah, I'm here.
Seahawks Martin, haven't seen you in a while, man. Haven't seen you in a while. So let's go. What's your thoughts? Your reactions to JJ Watt?
I mean, my first thought of it was, the Cardinals are a contender now. But then I realized, JJ Watt's old. He's kind of washed. He gets injured a lot. And just like Nick said earlier, he's probably not going to play all 16 games anyway. But when you pair him up with guys like Chandler Jones and Hassan Reddick, and those three might be a very good, a big three. So we got to be careful around there. And now we have we had to face Aaron Donald twice. We had to face Nick Bosa twice. And then the Cardinals, we had to face J.J. Watt, Hassan Reddick, and Chandler Jones twice a year, unless all of them somehow get injured, which will probably not happen. So, I mean, I'm like kind of afraid and then not afraid at the same time of the J.J. Watt signing. I'm afraid because, they still have a lot of talent with Chandler Jones, and if J.J. Watt's healthy, he's always dangerous. But when he's not healthy, I guess we'll be fine.
All right. Well put. I think that's the big question. Like last year, we were spared when you think about it, right? When we talked about earlier, Nick Bosa being injured the entire season, we'd have to face him. Chandler Jones.
Same with Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones, did we miss him both games? Was he out for both games against Seattle? I think he was, right? Or did we play him once?
I think so.
Anyway, I can't remember now, but I know we missed him at least one time. But great points, Seahawks Martin. Let's go one more. Let's go to Sky High Aviation. Man, it's the Coach Marsh's huddle roundtable guru right here.
Roundtable's showing up.
I know, right?
Let's go to Sky High.
And they'll admit, we break for all things NorbCam.
Oh yeah, Sky High Aviation. We can hear you, man.
Okay, so before we start, I'm kind of in an odd predicament. I'm at baseball practice right now, and I don't want anybody to be looking at me weird, so I'm in the outfield right now, just tossing in the field right now, just walking around.
Do you have your face in your glove? Like, when guys talk in their glove a little bit, pretend like you're talking to the guy?
Yeah, just I know right now. I have my earpods in right now.
So you can pull out. They're like looking at me like, who the hell is he talking to? Is he crazy over there? He's all talking to himself.
I wish I had a picture of
that is crazy, man.
Yeah, they're gonna think I'm crazy.
The parents are on the line.
I'm glad you have your priorities straight. That you're at baseball practice, fully engaged while being on a talk show guest on NorbCam. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's make sure.
They don't hit the ball.
I hope they hit a deep fly ball to you. So while you're running, like JJ Watt is really gonna be tough to handle for the Seahawks this year. I would love to see that. Anyway, go ahead. Make your point.
Okay, so I really, I know Squabo credited Cliff Kingsbury to this signing, but I also like to give credit to the general manager who I'm familiar with. His name is Steve Pham. He's really known to be one of the more risky guys who will go out, and he's not afraid to go out and get veterans and all that and spend big money for the Cardinals. But I think this signing kind of reiterates. I didn't see this coming, to be honest. I discussed it with peers before, but I never saw this signing coming. Because the Cardinals really, I didn't know that they would have the money, they would have the JJ Watt would have a preference to go there. But now that I see it, JJ Watt, he's a perfect fit for this team. And you know why? It's because the Cardinals, they like to rush 5 all the time. So Watt, he has a bit more flexibility when it comes to playing on the field with the team like that. He also has some pretty good teammates. I know it was mentioned. He has Chandler Jones, Budda Baker. He has a really good young core behind him. And second of all, I think Martin said it. These are making teams to contend. It's making them a contender right now. So I really credit Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Pham with that as well. One thing I'd like to connect to this is, Watt. I'd like to kind of also credit DeAndre Hopkins for getting him over here, which has begun to stir the pot in my mind that maybe Deshaun Watson, maybe swap for Kyler Murray. It's not totally impossible. Remember, I mentioned Steve Pham isn't afraid to go do these crazy things. He's not afraid to draft Kyler Murray with Josh Rosen, remember, on his roster. So maybe Deshaun Watson says, I want to go to Arizona where my buddies are. Maybe, maybe not. So it kind of just came to my mind. It's a possibility. But J.J. Watt's kind of like that big attractor guy. He's like, oh, J.J. Watt, I want to go play with him. He's a dude that I want to go play with because he's a leader. He goes out there and puts his heart on the field no matter if he gets injured or not. And maybe Deshaun Watson will try to follow suit, even though the Texans are clear on not trading him. So that's much. Oh, no fly balls yet, by the way. So I'm just walking around in the outfits.
All right. All right. Well, thanks, man. We'll let you get back to practice there because we don't want your coach to get mad at you for not paying attention and looking like you're crazy out there talking to yourself. So, great points, though. Really great points.
Okay.
All right,
Good
man.
seeing you guys.
Yeah, you too, man. All right. That was Sky High Aviation. I would love to get a Cardinals fan reaction here. There's one I'm going to try to do a collab with from the Fan to Fan Network later, if not later today, later in the week. But for now, I want to take a quick break from the calls. And Coach Marsh, you said you had a point you wanted to make that no one's brought up yet. So let's hear what that point is. You got my curiosity perked.
Yeah, to me, this is more about like what are the factors, right? We can get into breakdowns, and Sky High nailed it with the defensive front. That's why I was saying that I think there's a chance that maybe he moves inside, and a couple of things that I was looking up stuff too. So before I hit my bigger point, it's the fact that Jones and Watt, and these are stats I just looked up, since 2016, Jones is the second leader in sacks, even with the games missed, and the combo of Jones and Watt since 2012 is number one. In considering how many games those guys have missed, they are the number one tandem, and now you're putting them together. I mean, it's just the more I think about this, it's crazy. Here's, I think, factors. The Larry Fitzgerald factor. I'll talk about that later. It's the Vance Joseph piece. Their defensive coordinator, who I don't remember which years it was, but I know that he was on the defensive staff with the Houston Texans early in Watts' career. So there had to be some relationship piece there. And then he goes and becomes a head coach, gets fired after a brief stint. And then I know that, shortly thereafterwards, he said, I have no interest in becoming a head coach for a while. I'll never say never, but I have no interest. So as a head coach, I start thinking, okay, if I know I got a defensive coordinator who's probably going to be here for a while, he had to have had some input. It's not like he has to sell up J.J. Watt, but he definitely is probably in the conversation of, what type of player do I need to make this defense come alive so that Kyler Murray doesn't have to get 40 points a game and we don't have to be thinking as fans and as a coaching staff, gosh, if we could just get one more stop, maybe we win this game. And they were like 3 games away from, if they get one stop, they win it. Kind of like we were at times. Although we had Russ and he was able to get us those wins. I think that Vance Joseph piece, again, I heard nobody in the roughly 30 minutes I was listening to different pundits on the radio and also on my phone. Nobody mentioned Vance Joseph's name. This is one of those areas where your offensive coach, your head coach is an offensive-minded guy. So I don't know that he's really getting involved as much as he's just a young guy saying, hey, yeah, we got to make something work. I'm going to take care of Kyler. This might bring Larry back. I got Hopkins. Vance, what do you think? Because I know you're not leaving, so we got to build this thing around you. We got a great relationship. And he signs off on J.J. Watt, a guy he knows, a guy who's going to know him. I mean, it just adds to that intrigue of the more you think about it, the more it makes sense philosophically why Watt would go. Sans the $16+ million that he's getting this year to play. Like, I'm not losing sight of the money piece. But that coaching staff piece is big. Larry Fitzgerald probably comes back for another year. And the other piece I saw, which I know, Norb, you appreciate, is first time ever that 2 Walter Payton Man of the Year award winners are on the same team. And I only state that because we have the current Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner right here in Seattle. That's your Seattle tie-in.
Nice. Yeah, they definitely have some very solid veterans in there. Larry Fitzgerald, one of the coolest guys, one of the most stand-up guys you'll see in the NFL. A guy who should have a ring at this point. The Cardinals were
He's my number
so
one.
Close. Yeah.
Number one. My number one favorite just guy to watch.
And timeless. I mean, this guy, I thought this guy was going to have retired 2-3 years ago, and he keeps going. And yeah, he's not the same as he was at the peak of his career, but man, he's still productive.
I went to a game 2 years ago when they came here. Everybody in the stadium knew he was going to go in motion and catch the ball, and he still did it. Like, it's just fun when you got a guy that's that great. But you have to believe that all those pieces of puzzle, and as positive as J.J. Watt is, and as giving as he was with his finances there. I mean, he's as giving of a dude as we love to see Russ being, right? Like, just they both give and do all those things. To go to that city, to go to that team, to go to just a feel great organization. And again, like Squabs and others have said, like Seahawks Martin, Buda Baker. I mean, there's just such a neat feeling with that group. It does remind me of the kind of the early 2012 through 2015 Seahawks, only they were just more of a brash team, but you could just tell that the right components were there.
Yeah. And I noticed, did you just put that bloody picture of J.J. Watt? That wasn't there earlier, was it? Or did I miss it?
No, that I had my production team known as my 10 digits.
Okay.
Real quickly while Squab's with it.
I was going to say, I was just talking about that image, and you just brought it up there for all to see, in case, right there. For those of you who don't remember that game from the 2013 season where J.J. Watt, I think, broke his nose, or at least cut it open pretty badly. I mean, he was just a walking biohazard on that field that we got that comeback win. Squabo, I don't know if you wanted to react to any of the points made here. I certainly don't want to leave you out of the conversation, but is there anything you wanted to add to all this chatter that you haven't already made in terms of the signing?
Just wouldn't it be funny if after all these years where the Rams made it to a Super Bowl, the Niners made it to a Super Bowl, the Seahawks win the division, if it's the next team to win the Super Bowl out of this division is the Arizona Cardinals? Wouldn't that be just like a strange twist of fate if they go on and win the Super Bowl in such a fashion? It's very possible at this point. Very scary.
Awesome point, man. It'd be very cool from an outsider's perspective, not from a Seahawks perspective or the other two teams, but I agree. That's a great point, man.
Yeah, I said last year before the season started, I thought the Cardinals were going to be that number 2 division team. I thought it was going to be Seattle winning the division, which I was right. I was right about that. And I thought number 2 was going to be the Cardinals. Now, I was wrong about that. For a while, it looked like they were going to get there, and then they just sort of fell, like you said, you mentioned, fell apart the latter half of the season. And I thought it was going to be the Niners coming in, not expecting all those injuries. And I thought the Rams were going to be in last place. So, boy, I have to eat crow on that one. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. The Cardinals are definitely moving towards the right direction. And, you know, it's going to be, I just think it's going to be a neck and neck. If all teams stay healthy, I think it's going to be a very, tight division race once again, as I thought it was going to be last year. There's so many injuries to the Niners last year, but I think if everybody stays healthy, this is going to be just like a battle. We're all going to look like J.J. Watt in that photo there by the time we reach the playoffs, because we have beat the crap out of each other, and who knows, maybe the division winner is going to be 10-6, and everyone's going to be like 9-7 and 9-7 and 8-8. I don't know, who knows? It'll be one of those divisions where it's like there is no clear division winners. Like everybody's just battered and bruised from beating up on each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Let me try going to the phone line. I keep seeing the text that they can't hear me on the phone line. We're going to test that theory out. Let's see if we can actually get the phone line to work. I haven't taken calls over the traditional phone line in a while. So we got from the 602. Let's see if this works. Let's see. Come on, technology. 1.21 gigawatts. Let's go. From the 602. Are you there on the line? Oh, not there. Let me try a different. Swing and a miss. Let's try one more here. How about you for the 240? Are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Oh, look at that. Somebody's there. I can hear something. I can hear my echo. Who's this and where are you calling from? Oh, boy. We have a communication problem. All right. So the phone line thing doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what's going on here, but we'll go to a couple more calls here before we wrap things up. Let's go to Andrew Sund from Texas. Andrew.
What's up?
Welcome back to the show, man. You're from Dallas, right?
That's right. Yeah, Dallas.
Yeah. Hey, how did you deal with the cold and all the power outage issues? Did that affect you much down in your neck of the woods?
Oh yeah. We lost power. We had some pipes burst. Our neighbors had to call the fire department, and their house almost got destroyed. It was a mess.
Jeez, yeah, record lows there. It's normalized now since, right? Are we back to somewhat normal temperatures for you guys down there?
Oh, it's like 70. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you survived and are able to now talk on the show that you got through all that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, as a guy from Texas, I don't know if you have any more better knowledge of what's been going on down in Houston and with J.J. Watt, but what's your thoughts on the signing J.J. Watt going to the Cardinals?
Yeah, well, I definitely didn't expect it. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, I thought he was definitely going to go to. He said he wanted to go to the Browns, which just made me laugh because the Browns are his brother's division rival. So it'd be kind of funny if him could go against the other Watts and the Steelers. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then I just saw a notification today going to Arizona. where did that come from? So I guess he's in our division now. We got to play him twice a year with Chandler Jones and Hassan Reddick. So, sheesh.
Yeah, sheesh. That's pretty much sums it up. Sheesh.
Sheesh.
The reaction.
I was just looking into the draft again and looking for, and I did this simulated draft on Madden, and I ended up drafting Trey Hill, the center out of Georgia, playing to possibly, I think Ethan Posick will ultimately end up being a starter for the first half of the season, and then he might get replaced because I think the left guard position and right tackle, I think Ethan Posick, he's solid. He's not the greatest. We need to replace him at some point, but we also need to spend money re-signing Shaq, Jamal, Dunlap, and possibly Dunbar or Quentin Dunbar. So I'm not sure. We had a lot of money to spend here. Joe Thuney still on the board. It's going to be interesting how this plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely. I know that we did a whole thing during the draft, chatting it up. So we'll definitely do that again as we get closer to draft time and break a lot of this stuff down. But appreciate you being on here, man. I'm glad you're safe from all the bizarre cold that you guys had out there. But we will talk again soon, man. Thanks for being on.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go a couple more here before we wrap up. Let's go to El Taco 187. El Taco 187, you're on with Squabo, Coach Marsh, and NorbCam.
Hello?
Yep. You're on. You're live.
Hi. Again.
Welcome back. What's your thoughts on this?
Shocked.
Shocked in what way?
To be honest, I really thought he was going to go to the Steelers because that's what his brothers are.
Right. I think a lot of people thought he would go there too. Or again, I don't think the Cardinals were on the high list of the teams. It seemed like it kind of quietly snuck in there, But what do you think? What's your concern as a Seahawks fan? How you DEFCON 1, like all hands on deck, ready to fire the missile defense system, or are you like DEFCON 5? No, we'll be all right. He won't last but a fraction of the season. Where's your fear factor when it comes to JJ Watt?
I don't know. That's a lot I fear about him, but he's old though. That's the only good thing that's going on. Very old. He might retire this season. That's what I think.
Well, I don't know.
You're talking football years, right? Because I'm like, that makes me like super, super old. If we're just talking life. No, I'm kidding you.
Well, plus 31 million reasons for him to stay around for at least one more season after this, since he does have 23 million guaranteed. He's got 23 million guaranteed, but I guess he could get 31 if he plays out the rest of the entire contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, worried? Not that worried?
Not really. I'm
not that worried.
Worried and not worried at the same time.
All right. I think that pretty much defines the Seattle fans' personalities. Mm-hmm. They can't quite make up their mind if they're... Is Russ leaving? I don't think he's leaving. But I'm kind of worried that he might be leaving. Nah, he's not going to leave. But God, they sure are making it sound like he's going to leave. Age's talking to stuff.
Too many rumors.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks for being on here, man. Appreciate it. We'll see what happens. Let's go to Leader Empathetic. Leader Empathetic, you're on. What do you think about JJ Watt?
I mean, I was surprised to hear he went to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how much he's getting paid. But for Arizona, I think it's a great pickup.
Yeah, which is why I was surprised that so many, at least the initial responses on Twitter were from Cardinals fans were kind of negative. Like they didn't want him. They're like, oh man, he's washed up. What are they doing? Wasting our money on him. So
I just think everybody's looking at those numbers of sacks and they're not looking back to 5 years. Like I said, it's one of the few things I wrote down in terms of the last 5 years. 3 games, 5 games, then 16, down to 8, then 16. So three of those years he played less than 8, and 2 of them he played barely a quarter of the season. So that's why the sack number is so low. But the fact he played 16 games last year, pretty strong.
Well, and I think, don't you guys think sometimes the sack number is an overrated stat? It's like if you're it's like you're defined entirely by the numbers. Like, sacks, if it's not double digits, he's obviously not doing anything. It's like he's just picking his nose standing around if he's not getting sack numbers, because there's a lot of stuff that players do that doesn't get recorded on the sheet that's impacting, what happens from game to game. You just don't see it necessarily on the sheet. Don't you agree, guys? It's not all about the numbers of that defines whether a player's worth his value or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, years ago, and this isn't a benefit towards us older dudes. This is actually a negative. The stats certainly meant some things, but they were inflated because of other reasons, whether it was steroids or some of these other things, so it was hard to look at those. Now, stats, I think, are such a misnomer because of the game is so much faster, and I'm talking in all sports, so many things have changed, and the evolution of the game and how it's spread out and all these other things, it's hard to really define a player based on just one specific number. To where before you would look at a specific position, you would look at a specific position before, and what you'd sense is that that one stat is what equated to it. So receivers, it was yards, and running backs yards, and quarterbacks yards, and O linemen not giving up sacks. Now there's so much more to it. I mean, you have D linemen that are dropping back into coverage. You didn't have that years ago, so it's hard to we don't talk about how well certain guys do in their drop coverage, their zone coverage. So. Stats are, I'm glad you're finally jumping on the bandwagon of many stats can be overrated, or they can be used to your advantage depending on which side of the argument you're on.
Right. Squavo, how about you? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, there are a lot of different things that play into players getting sacks, whether it be scheme, whether it be personal ability, obviously is one of them, but there's a lot of different things that play into it. Play calling on the offensive end, and who's leading in the ball game. Like one of the big things that I brought up about Houston last year that made J.J. Watt's numbers not be as good as what they would have been is that they were always trailing. And when you're trailing, the offense is running the football, chewing the clock. And you don't know, the offense has versatility. They weren't able to stop the run or the pass. So if you can't stop either one, you don't know what to expect. And because of that, he's not able to just sit back and pass rush and go after the quarterback. It's much more unpredictable, and he has to stay disciplined and not get too far upfield just in case they do hand the ball off. So there are a lot of different factors that play into it.
I remember there, if I'm not mistaken, there was a mic, like a mic'd up, all access mic'd up recording of that game against the Texans, the bloody nose Watt game, and I think, who was the other linebacker? Forget his name.
Brian Cushing.
Yes, Cushing. And I remember those, I think he was one mic'd up, and they were talking all throughout the game, because they went off early. It looked like they were going to just run away, dominate the Seahawks, and they were just talking all kinds of smack. And then as it started to turn, I remember it was so fun after we got that comeback, and then to see that they had done this mic'd up session. I was so looking forward to watching that, because nothing better than, hearing players all get all cocky about where they're at, and all of a sudden when things turn, also it's like, what's happening here? I have to look and see if they have that available somewhere on YouTube. That was a great way to rewatch that game from a player's perspective, watching the suffering of the team's lead meltdown.
Yeah, it reminds me, this situation sometimes reminds me of, like when coaches leave Belichick's system and they go to be head coaches. And yeah, we often hear of the one or two that really make it, do really well. But there's a lot off of his tree that the branches fell and they didn't do very well at all. You look at guys that left who were doing great with a Donald or, some of these other guys. And then next thing you know, you don't hear about them anymore. So when guys are with other studs, they become great. So while Watt's getting double teamed, somebody else is going to do great. When, other people are doing great, someone else gets to do great. And then they go off somewhere else and they don't do as well. So I think that this is going to be something that, again, it's J.J. Watt doesn't have to be the great guy coming into the system. He can be that. He can be the second guy. He can be the Klay Thompson to, Stephon Curry type of deal where, hey, I am the superstar, but I don't have to be the superstar, but now I'm going to be the superstar. It's easy pickings for them.
And again, even if he just commands attention where they have to spend a little bit more time, maybe double teaming or chipping the guy, that's just one less resource that they have to spend on Chandler Jones or vice versa. So there's so much about the pairing about the other teams. Like with the Seahawks, when we got Carlos Dunlap, Jarran Reed was not doing much from the defensive standpoint, and then once they got him, all of a sudden Jarran Reed's productivity just took off, and he started getting sacks like back-to-back, game after game. And so it's amazing how one player of a pretty good caliber can improve the rest of your line. Get someone who's great, and all of a sudden it's just everyone's numbers start to go up. Let's get NINJA-CRK on here. I tried to get him earlier and we couldn't quite hear him. He says, "Give me another shot, Norb," on the chat. So let's see if we can try it here. See if we got his technical issues worked out. NINJA-CRK, are you throwing Chinese stars now? Are you flying? What's going on, Ninja?
No.
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. All right.
There you go. Using my phone this time.
Okay. Oh, it's loud and clear. All right. So what you got? What's your thoughts on the JJ Watt thing?
I was thinking Pittsburgh too. I was thinking the Steelers because to be back with his brother, but that's not gonna happen.
Obviously not.
Wait. Like the thing I am also concerned right now is if we lose Russell Wilson, I think Cardinals' chances with Watts and Hopkins, because they're two Texans, I feel they can have a chance, but like I think the way what we have to avoid is just avoid the trade, because the Cardinals' chances is going to be kind of confident for them because he's pretty good, because I see what he is, because he's pretty good help to do. He is good with the defense. It's like it's so about defense. Our defense was the problem, but now we're seeing it's the blocking for Russell Wilson, and like this is where we get very nervous because we have to avoid we need to get Russell time, but we have to keep things normal. But I'm very concerned a lot. That's my concern. It's like if we keep Russell for another year, then that's where we need.
Oh, yeah. And if you subscribe to Coach Marsh's theory, Russell Wilson has a 1-year expiration date. And he's sticking by that and counting. Actually, it was a year, and now it's probably 358.
This might be like December 4th, gone. January 8th, gone.
Yeah. Don't. We're not going to get into that debate here.
Fourth sack in the second game, gone. You might be out. Hey, I got a couple of things. The super chat, there's been a lot of people, and this is fun when we do these random things because I actually get to see the super chat. On our other shows, I never really look at it. A lot of people from wherever they are, and I'm so glad you guys have joined us, are saying, overpaid. He's overpaid. He's overpaid. So I didn't want to bring this up because I try not to always say this, but because my mentor was Sherman Smith, who coached with the Seattle Seahawks in NFL, we've talked about things a lot with different players. Now, I haven't contacted him on this, but one thing he said a long time ago, and which is why I equate players' contracts to points and I don't get caught up in contracts so much, is he said, and I can't remember which player it was that we had signed, and I said, gosh, it seems like, do you think we paid a lot? And he didn't want to get too much into contract stuff. But he said, as coaches, we oftentimes will look at it as points. So we might overpay someone. So let's look at J.J. Watt for them. They pay, $15.5 million? Let's equate that to 15.5 points. He said, we know that by bringing in that guy, a bunch of other guys, they're going to play at a higher point value than they're currently getting. So J.J. Watt goes to Arizona, overpaid at 15 million or 15.5 or 50, whatever the average is, 15.5, let's say. But if they got 7 dudes who are getting paid $3 million or 3 total points, who play at 3.5 million level or 4 million level or 4 point level, he says you get 7 or 8 guys that do that because you brought in one guy overpaid, it's totally worth it. And I think that's what you're going to get here. Is a J.J. Watt comes in, he's not the player he was, but if they even get just 4 dudes on that defense that play harder than they already are, you get Buda Baker and Jones, let alone those younger guys, save everywhere else. That I think is the magnitude of a J.J. Watt. And no, I've never heard anybody else put it that way other than Sherman, but he spent 22 years in the NFL, and it was just such a neat way to look at that from a player coming in. Like, yeah, we'd all say he's overpaid, but the rationale behind that is like, man, that makes sense because I would certainly play harder today than I did yesterday, even though I think I play hard because J.J. Watt's about to walk in the door.
That's one of those intangibles, right? The stuff that you look at the sack numbers. That's the easy thing you first look at when you're signing a defensive player of his sort. But there is that unspoken what you get inside the locker room, outside the locker room.
It's this guy.
The galvanizing. Yeah.
This, to me, was the best quote of the year, right? When he said after Watson walked off the field, and they had the mic on him. He said, "I'm sorry we wasted one of your years." I mean, what veteran says that to a young guy? I mean, just the heartfelt genuineness of it. And you can say that he's on roids or whatever you want. The dude is a good dude that wants to win. He's getting his money. But how do you not want to play for a guy that's willing to do that? He knows he's mic'd up, and yet he's not thinking about it at that point of the game, though. Like, hey, man, I'm like genuinely sorry. I just think it's such a win and such a steal for Arizona that the tough part for us is going to be our big splash that we're looking for. And Squabs, I'd love your opinion on this. We have to get excited for whatever offensive lineman we get. We know we're going to get something, whether it's a free agent in the draft or what have you. The problem is that is our number one priority. And so when we get that in Seattle, we'll be like, really, is that all we did? We got 2 linemen? That has to be like, man, it's great that we got linemen. We've never been in this situation where that has to be what we're so excited about, especially when we're looking at other teams and other divisional teams getting these high-profile players. We got that when we got Jamal Adams. So we have to kind of hold that into 2021. That was our splash player that, to me, carries into this full offseason, full year. So count him as our big splash guy, and then be just as excited when we get an old lineman. And just like we don't know if J.J. Watt's going to play a full season, we also don't know what old lineman's going to come in that's going to fit this scheme, and maybe he plays worth more points than we pay him.
Yeah, Squabo, you want to respond to the question that Coach Marsh threw your way?
No, I just.
It's more of a commentary.
Agree.
Like, Squab, that'd be interesting. Just in terms of that old line piece, right? Like, it's because Squabs and I have been talking about doing some things with regards to just offensive line to help people understand just the sheer value of those guys.
Because for those of you who don't know, Squabo back in high school was a center, so you wouldn't know to look at him now because he's the slim and trim guy. He was a little bit bigger back when you were playing center, right? Back in high school.
And he's a study machine. So just because he says, played in high school, never put that as a, something against him or anybody else that says that. I'm not talking about me because I had some fun things I was able to do. Like, he studies the game. He knows the game. It'd be like saying to someone who never played, well, you don't know much about football. The greatest coach I ever had never played football. And he was the best coach I ever had from a fundamental standpoint. So, but he played center, so he gets it. He knows it. And that's why I'm looking forward to doing stuff with him. I almost wish we had a show going today with regards to this.
So I guess your point, So your point is about we need to celebrate whatever offensive line moves. Was that kind of your point, Coach, that you wanted Squabba to talk about? Is that we've got to greater than any year we've ever had. If it is what we do, is the biggest moves we make is bolstering the offensive line.
We have to embrace.
We've got to love that.
We have to embrace him. The one dude that I go to Seahawks games with, he's always wearing an offensive line jersey. Because he knows that nobody else is. Nobody else is wearing. Everybody, you see thousands of number 3s, thousands of number 12s. Nobody's wearing 74 or 77 or 79. He's got a slew of those jerseys, right? So to me, it's awesome because he knows I love the pillars of power, as I call them, right? The guys that are in the trenches there. So yeah, we have to embrace that. It might be a $1 to $3 million guy, and if you go look at the top free agents, on O-line, a lot of them are getting much more than that. We're probably not going to do that because we're hamstrung and those other things. But there are some guys out there that you're not going to know the names. You're just not going to know their names when they come in, and you're going to have to watch Nick LeBeau put a show out there where he'll talk about who the guy is because the guy knows every old lineman out there and everybody lineman in the draft and everything else, or Cameron Hughes and some of those other guys that are fans of our shows. So I can't wait. Whoever we sign, I'm going to be amped about it. But we just need to sign somebody because right now it just feels like Russell issue, and now we've heard this big splash down there. And it feels like, hey, Schneider, and Carol, you guys doing anything? And we know they are. But let's not have some of those linemen get away to other teams, and now we're stuck with guys.
Man, and no pressure on the new guys coming in, right? Everybody who's going to be taken in as either drafted or a free agent or whatever brought into the Seahawks. So welcome to the Seahawks offensive line. Just make yourself at home. No pressure on you, but, pretty much if you don't do your job, Russell Wilson's probably going to leave our team. So good luck. Squabbo, your 2 cents.
Not just that. Squabs, how about Waldron? I mean, he's like, they're telling him, hey, just so you know, you got this, and you're going to have Russ. Oh, Russ might not be coming back? Okay, Shane, you might not have Russ this year, so start planning without him. Holy cow, it's my first gig. What do you think, man?
No pressure. Squavo, your thoughts?
Just build the offensive line and do it now. Center was my first priority, but they're all 3 first priorities at this point. Center, left guard, right tackle. We need all 3. Go ahead and get them.
I like it. Simple and effective. All right. Well, I wanted to really keep the show to an hour. I thought it'd be like 20 minutes. And of course, as usual, it went longer than expected. It's about a little over an hour. So I do want to wrap this up. I think we covered most of everything that we wanted to. But I do want to thank and have my guests, DJ Squabble and Coach Marsh, a chance to tell you guys, I'm sure there's some people who are not familiar with this channel who are watching right now, to tell them a little bit about where you guys can be found and what you guys cover. So Squabble, why don't you go first? What you got going?
Well, I just dropped a video about what the Seahawks need to do in free agency on my channel. I'm going to have to make an adjustment to that now for inflation and Watt in the division. So now right tackle is going to be added to the video, but left guard, center, corner, all covered in the video. KJ Wright contract covered in the video. Check it out on my channel after you show love to both of these two gentlemen.
Love it. It's a great story, and you had a great article to go along with that, too, published in the Fan to Fan Network, fantofanetwork.com. So Coach Marsh, Coach for Life is your YouTube channel, and tell everybody about what you have going on.
Yeah, so you just did the plug for that. Other than I do a show every Saturday with a group that talks about all things Seahawks and some NFL stuff, and then I'm in the works with Squabo and Steezy and Norb, and looking at doing some other fun things as I find time to be able to do it. But I just enjoy these so much. But Squabs, you put out some just phenomenal stuff. I did want to say just thanks to everybody in the super chat. Like I just love the fact that I don't get to watch it very much. It's just so neat to see people that at this time of day, wherever you are in the world, that you're jumping on because you're a supporter of Norb, or maybe you saw his thumbnail and thought, oh, let's jump onto this thing. So I hope that you'll help him by hitting that subscribe button, pressing the like button, and all those things that we do. But I got to call Wu-Tang Life out, not call him out. Loved a lot of the comments that you were saying in terms of the free agency and the cap hit and all those other things that we weren't going to dive into here. But just so many of you brought up some great points that fun to see that, fun to see those conversations take place.
Brandon
I appreciate
Rogers.
you getting me out of Target. I thought I'd been stuck there for another hour getting my shopping list done.
Hey, man, I know it's one of those
got me out of there.
places. Yeah, you get stuck in there, and next thing you know, you've been there for like an hour and a half buying stuff that you never thought you needed.
Well, I go to get food, and then I see electronics, and NorbCam comes into my head, so now I'm buying more cords that I don't need and stuff like that. Backups to the backups to the backups, as you know, because I was texting you while I was there.
That's true. And just a word of advice, if you're going to buy cords, get it from Amazon, because if you buy it from all the retail local places, they charge like 3 or 4 times as much for like a 3-foot HDMI cable. Will cost a fraction of that on Amazon.
I don't
affiliate link below.
You've
Actually, no, I don't have one. But
Amazon is the place. Amazon is the place.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brandon Rogers is asking, can someone drop a link to Marsh's channel? I believe I have it in the description. I'll make sure it is in there.
It's all one word. There's a Coach for Life, Coach, and then the number 4, and then Life. That's what it is. And again, there's going to be a lot more coming up. We just launched it a couple weeks ago. So we've just done some fun things with fans that are part of this show. So anybody you see on my channel is 100% coming from people that are supporting NorbCam and that love NorbCam, love Squabble and Steezy and all those other guys. So great stuff.
Absolutely. And so this week coming up, Coach, we're doing a Coach's Corner, aren't we?
We got Coach's Corner tomorrow, and then I know there's a round table, and then Saturday I'm going to try to pull off another double header with my mini JV round table of guys. But they're quickly looking to get to the varsity level, and then hoping to maybe drop a video this week. If not, next week it'll be the very latest that I will be dropping. And they're going to be all over the map, so that'll be the fun part.
Awesome. Yep. So lots going on, lots to talk about. It may be the off season, but the season is definitely not off because there's just plenty going on. So yeah, join us tomorrow for our Coach's Corner. 5:30, I believe, is what we're aiming for tomorrow. Yep. And then the roundtable, weekly roundtable, we'll talk about this and other whatever developments. There seems to be new development every single day, so we'll have something to talk about on Wednesday with the rest of the game.
And I want to say, Norbert, for our shows in the comments, because I do check them out. If there's something you guys want to see, whether it's the breaking news stuff or the Coach's Corner or roundtable stuff, like we collaborate on those things to figure out what we don't talk about exactly what we'll talk about with those topics, but it helps us, or at least definitely helps me look for content that you guys want. Want me to break down with Norb, or you want Squabble and I to break down certain things or what have you. So please do that in NorbCam's comments under his videos.
Yeah.
After you're done watching whatever video he puts up here or up here.
Yeah, that's right. This particular episode may be about JJ Watt may be coming to a close, but that doesn't mean you have to stop watching, because yes, click anywhere you like, because we have more good stuff. The experience never ends. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy these other videos.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to y'all later.
Touchdown.